All right, welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. This is THI publisher Andrew Jones, and it's time for another football recruiting podcast. And joining me, as she almost always does, we talk UNC Tar Heels football recruiting, our director of football recruiting, Deana King. And Deana, what are the hot topics, if you will, on social media and people reaching out to us, sometimes complaining, not happy, or just curious, are the rankings of some of Carolina's committed prospects. They have 14 in the class of 2021. And some of the kids, people are saying, hey, this service has them rated here, that service has them rated here. How come Rivals or Tar Heel Illustrated, a lot of people think we actually do the rankings. How come you guys have them as low as you do? Now, we're not going to sit here and explain away the rankings because we don't do that. Rivals does that. We have to report whatever their rankings are. And to me, it really doesn't matter a whole lot one way or the other. However, because we've been approached about it so often, we kind of want to have a little fun with some of the current three-star kids and maybe projecting those whom we believe are going to eventually get to a four-star. So we can kind of play along with what is at times a feeding frenzy.
Well, you're right. When we do commitment stories or something in the byline, we'll put that, and then we always get comments like, "Oh, he's he's a 4-star. He's not a 3-star." Blah blah blah. So anytime you're dealing with stars and rankings, is kind of a part of the business.
Yeah, it's part of the business, and it's kind of fun in some ways. And what amazes me is how some people think that everyone is supposed to have a monolithic view about this athlete or that athlete. And I think one of the neat things about the various services is that there are some differences. What's the point in everybody being the same? Some services, I don't know how the other services do come about their rankings. I can very quickly tell you that Rivals puts a premium on in-person viewing. They want to see these kids in person. And one of the things they put a lot of stock into is their spring camp series. And other than a couple of stops early on, it started, I think, the second week of February out west. Other than a couple of stops this year, they had to cancel the whole series. Now, we don't know what's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks. Maybe there'll be enough time they can pick it up and do a national one that they always end up the camp circuit having a national one where they invite the top kids from various camps. They go there, perform, and some of them move up in the rankings. Some of them move up based on just what they did at the various satellite camps around the country. You and I have gone to the one in Charlotte area a bunch of times, and it's always loaded. We've seen some kids that we didn't know a ton about going in that ended up performing well, and their star rankings went up. So people need to understand that that's how Rivals does it. Maybe Rivals is a little bit more select than other services. I don't know, because I've never been in that room. No one's ever asked me my opinion, and they probably never will, because that's not my forte. But one thing that is my forte is having some fun projecting. So we're going to look at 5 current 3-star Tar Heels that have committed in the class of 21, and we're going to just kind of bandy about whether or not we think they can be or even will be eventually a 4-star prospect. We're going to go ahead and start with Rah-Rah Dilworth, who committed about 2 weeks ago, narrowed down to Carolina, Alabama. He's a very high 3-star athlete. What about his game to you, Deana, screams 4-star kid?
Well, his athleticism, and he's got world-class speed. And when you combine speed and his range and tackling ability, and a kid with a nickname Rah-Rah, it's kind of like, he seems like a 4-star kid, just the nickname. So he's full of energy, all over the field. Was his conference defensive player of the year in a really tough 4A conference up here in the Winston-Salem area. So, I call him a little firecracker because he's full of explosiveness.
Now, is it going to take Rivals seeing him in person one more time and seeing him, exude all of his amazing qualities in order to move up, or is there something about him that may just keep him as a very high 3? And by the way, let's note, there are a ton of 3-star kids in the NFL. They're all over the
Well,
place. There are a ton of three-star kids that have been all conference and Power Fives and all Americans. So these star rankings only matter to the point when they show up, and that's if they even matter at all. But there are a lot of three-star dudes that are phenomenal players.
Rah-Rah, he made his big splash last year on the camp series. He had a really good rivals camp down in Nations Ford High School in Fort Mill, South Carolina. So he made a good impression down there. So I'm sure he's only gotten better with another year's worth of play.
The first time I saw Keyshawn Silver in person, he was standing next to Desmond Evans last year at Mac Brown's Showtime camp. It was about 25 minutes or so before it started, and I snapped a picture, and I thought, wow, who's that guy? At first, I didn't think that you would tell me he's a high school football player. He looks older. His frame is certainly bigger than what you would expect, even from a high-end high school football player. At the very least, when you look at Keyshawn Silver, you look at him and say, that's a four-star kid. What about his game screams four-star to you?
Well, Mac Brown loves kids that are dual sports. Keyshawn, he also plays basketball. So, if he's a defensive end coming off the edge, he's got to have great footwork. And if you play basketball in the post, you got to have great footwork. So, he coming off the edge there, he's going to be a terror in a backfield against opposing offenses. So, I like his versatility. He plays hard, got a good motor. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in action these Friday nights coming up.
Is there anything about his game that you think maybe he just stays a very, very high three-star?
Well, he plays in – I don't want to make anyone mad or anything or upset, but, maybe the competition. He's in a 3A conference in the eastern part of the state. Maybe not going against really comparable good offensive linemen, not getting a true test of how he can be.
And just to clarify on that, that's your understanding of how a lot of this stuff is looked at when they watch tape and everything else. They take all these different things into consideration. So and another kid, Power Eccles, is someone that you love. You talked about Power Eccles for a couple of years. It's kind of hard to imagine a kid could be the two-time AP Defensive Player of the Year in this state, which is loaded with talent, and in this class, which is super loaded with talent, and he could fly under the radar. But there Power Eccles sits as a high three-star, but a three-star nonetheless with all of those attributes and accolades. Yeah,
and being in Charlotte, know what the talent level is in Charlotte. And, last year, Trenton Simpson, the outstanding linebacker, the 5-star that he committed to Clemson. Power was in the same conference as Trenton was, and they went head-to-head twice. They're both teams. And, leadership ability, Power has it. Helped lead his team to a state championship. Like you said, 2 years straight, Defensive Player of the Year in the state of North Carolina. Tackling machine, just someone that's always around the ball.
Before we hit on the other two kids, just want to remind you, if you like this video, go ahead and click like, subscribe to THI here on our YouTube channel, and hit that notification bell. You get updates every time we post a video. We post a ton of them because we cover UNC football, UNC basketball extensively, and recruiting extensively as well. Now, before we get to the other two kids, Deana, we ran a piece on our site, TarHeelIllustrated.com, on Sunday with these 5 kids and making some projections. And we both agreed that we thought that Dilworth, Silver, and Eccles eventually will be 4-star kids. That's just our projection. We don't do the rankings, and it's possible that none or 2 or 3 of them, or one of them, do not end up becoming a 4-star player. And it's also possible that they do it may not be in the next recruiting ranking cycle. There will be several more that come out before this class is finished. Okay, the last two kids, Kobe Paystar, he's not as high a 3-star as the other three, but there are other services that have him as a 4 and had a pretty nice offer sheet. So what are your thoughts about Kobe Paystar? When you look at him, it says that dude should be a 4.
Well, he's a 4-year starter at a very good 3A program in Cleveland County. Catches a lot of balls. He's got great size, 6'2", 6'3" range. Maybe the issue possibly with him is maybe he's no Daz Newsome speed-wise, Josh Downs speed-wise. So, he may be a possession type kid in the future for the Tar Heels. So I think maybe that might be something with him.
Kamaro Edmonds, a really interesting athlete, a football player. I think more than once, you've many times described him as a football player. He's also another kid that I believe in some other services is a 4-star kid. He's a solid 3 on Rivals. When you watch him play, what about his game that says this guy's a 4-star or could be a 4-star?
Well, he's great in the backfield. He can catch. He's a great target coming out of the backfield for the quarterback. Got good hands. Just versatility. He probably does everything that his coach asks him to do. If he wants him to run the ball, he runs the ball. Go be a receiver, he receives the ball. So he's just like I said before, just a great football player. And comes from a great football program there at Havelock.
Now, also in the piece that we ran on Sunday is we had Paystar and Edmonds is not, we projected they would not receive a 4-star. So of the 5 kids that we featured in the piece, and they're the 5 that we're featuring here in this podcast, we believe that Dilworth, Silver, and Power Eccles have really good shots at becoming a 4-star. Maybe will become a 4-star at some time. And the other 2 we think will remain high 3-stars. And if that's the case, that's still very impressive. UNC has 6 4-star commitments right now in their 14-man class. So if you add 3 more, that would be 9, 8 of whom would be from the state of North Carolina. And we believe that they have a really good chance to get a few of the other kids in the top 20 in the state as well. So final thoughts on these 5 kids, and if you were to project one, if only one becomes a 4-star, who would it be?
I probably would say Rah-Rah. I like his game, and I like his name. You got Rah-Rah power. You add them with some of the other guys on defense for the Tar Heels, it sounds like an all-nickname team. So I think Rah-Rah because that kid, he constantly, if you follow social media, he's always doing something, whether it's in the weight, doing stuff in the weights, going outside. Heck, I've seen him out running routes as a wide receiver because the dude he's pretty fast, and he likes to show that speed off and show him he's not only a linebacker, he can beat people catching the ball too. So just a great athlete and great kid.
You're going with Rah-Rah. I'm gonna change course here a little bit, and I'm gonna go with Keyshawn Silver. So we're both on record with that. That's if there only one kid ends up at 4. Thanks a lot, Deana. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
For Deana King, this is Andrew Jones. You have been watching another UNC football recruiting podcast right here on TarHeelIllustrated.com and Tar Heel Illustrated, our YouTube channel. Thanks for stopping by.